just fake it and erase it. I know.
That's right.
Okay, so based on the needs assessment that I did earlier this year, I looked at the questions and I found some things that I think that would benefit us in the classroom. So just kind of starting off, I wanted to share some of the results from the need assessment that led me to kind of the thinking about questions. So we had the lessons or units in my classroom routinely expect the students to draw evidence from text to inform, explain, or make an argument. And based on that, we said most of the things we do require students to do some type of independent thinking.
Right.
Another one was that my classroom cultivates student interest and engagement in reading, writing, speaking about text, which is all of us. Like, we're always trying to engage students in additional thinking activities. So kind of putting that together is where I came up with student engagement is one of the areas that I think would help us focus the students a little bit better. I know that we talk about it all the time about being a struggle and getting them to say something. Yeah. So that's really where I'm going, is that the goal is to increase participation and encourage active learning.
Sounds good.
So I did the research for you. Yay! But a couple interesting things I found, which I was surprised. I said, instruction which includes posing questions during lessons is more effective in producing achievement gains than instruction carried out without questioning students. So, which I know we question students all the time, but I have some ways that I think might help us out. And then very young children and poor readers tend to focus only on material that will help them answer questions if they are posed before the lesson is presented. Yeah. And I know that with the special education students, and we also have a lot of students that come in reading below level, so it's just a good healthy reminder. And then simply asking higher cognitive questions does not necessarily lead students to produce higher cognitive responses. And I think about our study sync and the questions that are there are very very high, and we talk about that's always a struggle, that we're not able to, that we know that they're going to struggle answering those questions. And then teaching students to draw inferences and give them practice in doing so results in higher cognitive responses and great learning gains. And I put that in there because we always talk about inferencing. And, I feel like we really focus on those activities. So that's just the research to back up what we do already. So yay, we do good and we have things to improve. So with that research, research encourages student involvement in being part of the question generating process. And I feel like that might be kind of the next step that we could do. We talked a little bit about last year of getting the students as part of the process. So I have 3 protocols that I want to go over with you guys. And what I looked for is something that was easy to implement, didn't take a lot of time. You can take it back to your classroom like tomorrow, easily transferable to multiple activities, and immediate impact. So the first one is a question formulating technique. Have y'all heard of this or done anything like that?
It sounds somewhat familiar, but maybe we've done it just in a different name. Question formulating technique.
So the steps are, first, as teachers, we can ask a focused question. So like with Study Sync, we might ask what is the theme? Or since we just did point of view, we can say, what is the point of view? And then we go over the rules with the students. So ask as many questions as you can. So they're going to ask as many questions as you can. We don't stop to discuss any of the questions during the reading. We don't judge any of the questions. We don't answer any of the questions. We're just writing as many questions as they can. And a lot of them are going to start off being very surface level questions. But eventually they're going to start getting deeper, and once they start challenging each other.
So this might be like question storming?
Yeah, so similar to that, very similar. And then once we do that, we record all the questions. So all questions, it doesn't matter what they are, get written down, and then from there we categorize the question. So open-ended and close-ended questions. And then from there, we get to prioritize them. So we might say, okay, well, what is the 3 most important questions that we have? What are the 3 questions you would like to address first? Or what are 3 questions you want to explore further? And then from there, so then we can decide what the next steps are. We can have them answer those questions. We can add some of those questions to a test,
Right.
which we can say is student generated at that point. Or we can have them come up with a project based on the types of questions that they generate.
Right.
So, and I really like this. I feel like we could incorporate something like this pretty quickly.
Yeah, definitely. I like the generating questions and no discussion. Just give us your questions,
Exactly.
record them, and then, like
Which
you
I
said,
feel-
categorizing and prioritizing.
Yeah.
And I know that our Study Sync, our curriculum right now generates the questions for them, and we've seen the disconnect. So
Yep.
maybe if we kind of
Yes.
try it in the
Yep.
opposite way.
Right.
And we could still do, like, not necessarily middle because we're reading, but beginning and end. So, like, leading in questions.
Yeah.
What do
Right.
What do you think it's about? What do you notice
Right.
from the pictures? Have you heard of this author? And then end questions. So, about the story, things that they think as they
Right.
try to challenge each other.
So they would do this before they read?
They can do it before and
Or
after.
after.
So I feel
And
like there's
during.
I feel like there's a
During.
lot
I
of
mean, like-
there's a lot
Right.
of leeway with this, but it's all about student questions, and it could be part of the annotation process so
Yeah.
that they can be writing questions
Right.
as they go.
Yep.
All right, so the next one is called Say Something. So this is something that I've not done before, but I thought it was going to be kind of cool. It's different. And so we divide students into groups of 2 or 4, which most of us sit students like that anyways.
Yeah.
And this will be good for when we're reading a story or a short excerpt. So the group, they decide how far to read. So let's say a student reads to a certain point, and they have to ask a question or say something about what they read. So it's like verbal annotations.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
They have to say something within that, that paragraph.
Right.
So while reading, students mark at least 3 passages to consider using. They can use a check mark. They can find a quote, which we talk about quotations a lot. They can use an explanation point. So we can kind of use those little strategies to help them identify the main parts of the book
Right.
or main parts of the story.
Yeah.
But we can also ask them leading questions. And so, like, one of the things that we can do for our struggling students is we can differentiate by coming up with question stems for them. And that way they kind of know what to look for.
Right.
And we can make sure that we're hitting everybody. Not everybody will need it, but we know we have some students that
Right.
do. And then afterwards come together as a class to discuss
Yep.
the question. So again, I feel like this is something that we could implement pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yep.
Like that.
And the last one, which I've kind of been hanging on to this, but I'm kind of excited about this one.
Oh,
Because I feel
good.
like it'll go with the previous one. Okay. So this one is the discussion game, which our students love games. And you have index cards, and each index cards means something different. So everybody gets one of these, and it's something that we could just prepare ahead of time so
Yep,
they're all
right.
together. And we can say, like, green is an I think question. Pink might be an I know this because question. Purple or yellow could be they have to pose a question themselves. And then I feel, so saying like how I feel, and then a last one could be a connection question.
Yep.
So something where they're generating the discussion.
Yep.
So you divide it. It's very similar to the previous one, I feel, where you can divide them into groups, and then you tell them that each card is going to be a point.
Okay.
And so when they're done, so once they generate the question, they just kind of put their pile, they pile
Yeah,
the cards up in the
right.
middle, and then that's how they're assessed on that for the assessment piece. But also it just gets them thinking. So
Yeah.
they're thinking that, okay, I need to generate this type of question.
Yeah.
And they can see the connection of how questioning goes along with
Right.
stories, and that
And being able to comprehend. and
yes,
understand what's
that
going
comprehension,
on.
because it's not always natural for students. So
Nope.
this is something that will
I like that.
I like
help
that,
lead
yeah.
them through that questioning goal.
Yeah.
So overall, the goal that we're trying to do is make a bigger impact with questioning.
Yep.
And I feel like this is something that I think, do y'all think y'all could use these?
Yeah.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes. These are like quick,
I love
easy,
it.
and
Yeah.
painless, and things that I think we naturally do. But then you need to rethink about how you do it.
And
sometimes.
including all
And-
kids,
right.
it really it's holding them a little bit more accountable. Like, you know.
Well, yes, and I was thinking that we could also modify this. 'Cause one of the things I was thinking is that we don't have to necessarily write on the cards, but if we have the same colors, it's something that we could change every week, and we could say, okay,
Yeah.
so we've done point
This
of
type
view,
right. Right.
You know, who you got to, you know, identify the point of view, or be the first person in your group to identify the point of view, and then, you know, next we're doing main idea, so
Right.
this could be a main idea card, and
Right.
we can even, you know, take it further where students eventually, hopefully, would start generating their own,
Right.
and then they can share it with
Yeah.
other groups. So,
Yeah, I like it. These are great little quick strategies. I
Okay.
love it, Jackie.
so we
Fabulous.
can give this a try. I have a ton of cards for you guys, and then,
Cool.
and then yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.
Well done.
Yes.